This episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast is brought to you in part by No Judges Needed BJJ Apparel and Lavender Lane CBD products. You can use the promo code JJT for 20% off your first order at No Judges Needed, and the code JJTimes20, all uppercase. Last two items are numerical for 20% off your first order of CBD products. Thank you very much for sticking with us. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I am your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always, returning from his absence last episode, my longtime co-host and good pal, Kevin Gallagher. Kevin, how we doing today?
I am good, Kev. How are you? How'd your show go? I didn't get a chance to watch it. Did it go all right?
We had Mona Bailey on for episode 48, I believe. This is 49. We're about to hit 50 episodes.
Wow.
We're about to hit 50
that's big
episodes.
Time, man.
So it was a good time.
We're on 59 now?
We're on 49 now.
We got 49 now. Yeah, we got to get a big guest in. We got to find somebody big to do the 50th.
We're looking, if any big guys in the jiu-jitsu world want to hit us up to come on the show
for number 50.
You know the way to do it. Hit the links in the description down below.
Just hit us up.
Last episode we had Mona Bailey on, the 16-year-old competitor out of Texas who just beat Nat Santoro at
was that her? Wow, yeah.
The alopecia fighter, the bald strong jiu-jitsu. She is like, seeing that match. I watched it again before the interview and then after. Her guard is so stupid. Yeah. It made me nervous watching it. And honestly, I was mad because, like, you're the buffer, man. I'm just a shrimpy little nobody. You're the big, strong guy that makes me feel secure when we have these monsters on. And so I was interviewing a dangerous alpha predator by myself, and I felt totally exposed.
Luckily, it was through the magic of the internet, so you didn't have to share a room with her to feel that.
Oh, thank gosh! The best thing that ever happened was the world shutting down, so we can never meet any of these.
You can never meet any of these people face to face.
Any of these people, yeah. I brought up that you and your mom, you were taking care of your mom. Mama Gallagher doing okay?
Yeah, she's fine. She's got some back problems. I mean, she's just getting old, and she's close to 80. I think she's 79 now, and she just can't get around. So I got to take her. Between me and my sister, we take her to her doctor's appointment. She was supposed to get injections in her back. And, she has legitimate problems, but it's one of them pain management clinics that are just a complete, people in there, not necessarily a pill mill. I'd say a step up from a pill mill, but it's all pretty much the same thing. People in there, doctors just prescribing things to people that have pains for whatever reasons. Pain management's a shady business. So long story short, it took ridiculous. It always takes forever. It took like 2 hours, just sitting in some room, because again, there was no such thing as a waiting room. So when you make the appointment, they put you in individual room. So I'm assuming rather than waiting in the waiting room for your appointment, they kept you in your individual room, and it was just brutal, miserable. I was losing my mind. And then at the end of it, they didn't even do anything for it. They said, "Oh, you got to come back in 2 weeks." So I was like, "Oh, sweet, thanks. I'll just make sure to do this again."
Oh man, I mean, it's great that us in the jiu-jitsu community have figured out that the only thing you need for pain management is just a roll of tape.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Just tape it.
Tape's fine. Tape will get you through it.
I feel like my coach Chris goes through about like 200, 300 rolls of tape a month, just because of how much tape he puts on his hands and his toes. Like he broke his toe like first roll after quarantine because because of course he would. That's what happened.
Are you guys rolling again? Are you guys going full bowl up there? Are you guys out there on the
mat? We are very we have scheduled like sessions. It's all very above board, and we're not fully opened up yet, but like we're as open as we can be. Everyone's got to wear rash guards. Everyone's got to drill with the same people, distanced apart and whatnot. But
that's not too bad. So you guys will get up and set up in a small little group, keep yourself socially distanced, so you can still roll and drill with those people at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, there's been every gym has those stories of people that are just going to some guy's basement and training. Right. So you can never be 100% sure with anything. I know Florida is all fuck wild.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah. I know a lot of places are beginning to talk about just fully ripping the Band-Aid off and going back, just because a people are starting to talk about canceling permanently, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we're at a weird crossroads right now. You know, at the one side, I'm overly concerned just watching the numbers rise and concerned about what's going to happen off of that. But the other side, I'm also like, hey, man, like, it is what it is. We just got to get going with our lives here. You know, I don't want to be another number, but at the same time, I want to realize, hey, this has been going on long enough. And it doesn't seem like the world is falling yet. You know, maybe I'm being a denier in that regard, but I don't know. I just don't know.
I mean, everyone at every level, from single gym owners to like event promoters to competitors, they're all feeling different stages of the burn in different areas. All of it's ultimately going to hit our wallets, but you know, I don't know what you tell people who are really concerned about a virus to be infected. You know, I don't know what the next solution is.
You know, and I want to believe the narrative that it's only affecting older people and compromised people, but like, I don't know. I just don't know. I had a couple of friends of mine that died that are in their 40s that weren't really, you know, immune compromised. Not a couple, but one or two. But it just, again, I just don't. I think the incredibly dubious part of this entire virus is the fact that it only seriously affects like 2% of the people that catch it. And that number is very deceptive simply because it infects quite a large number of people because the infection rate is very, very high. So the idea that like, if, you know, we were dropping like flies when someone caught it, then everyone would be like, hell no, I don't want to catch this shit because I don't want to die. But because it's not that effective and it doesn't affect that many people, people are like, oh, cool, I'm fine. What do I have to worry about? But it still runs with the same analogy to one I always use. Like, if it's only killing 1-2% of the people, imagine you have a bottle of pills with 100 pills in it. Like, you could take 99 of them or 98 of them and not have any problems, and it'll give you like whatever, like a great day or whatever the hell the pill is supposed to do for you. You know what I'm talking about? But
it'll make your guard so good. Paul.
Yeah, exactly. But if you take the 1 or 2 that'll kill you, you're going to die. You know, and because we're not seeing a mass amount of harmful side effects, people are considering that, but not that big of a deal. But as the numbers start to rise, statistically, it should stay consistent and blah, 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 blah. But whatever. Who the fuck knows anymore? I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. I'm not a doctor. I don't care.
I mean, well, just before we get into jiu-jitsu news and very brief life news that I kind of touched on last episode, your boy's engaged.
Oh yeah,
so
that's right.
That's some good stuff that's happening.
Congrats, man! I get to wear a fancy suit and come up there and see you in Jersey.
Kevin, I mean, like, I'm glad you said yes to be a groomsman, just because right now it's looking like. I feel like I'm looking at my groomsmen and best men like a UFC card. It's stacked.
It's stacked.
Like it's various like ne'er-do-wells and killers. Like
ne'er-do-wells. I like that.
Yeah, no, that's probably what I'm going to be calling all of you. And your job is just to keep me alive.
I will definitely be up there, and I will be up there for the long haul. Believe me. I might not know much about weddings, but I do know a thing or two about bachelor parties. So we will we will throw it down.
I'm trying to convince Sherb that like we have maybe a little mat at the reception. Just like, because I'm looking at the list. I'm like, there's going to be enough jiu-jitsu people at this thing where we could probably get.
It's up to you, Kev. It's up to you, Kev. But and again, this is from someone from experience. I think that is an idea that sounds much better on paper than it does in reality and application. And I think you're better than that cliche, and I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, come on. That's like,
maybe you're not, I don't know.
I'm not, though.
I got it.
Here's the thing. Like, you see those cute videos of like the husband and wife that both do jiu-jitsu, and they do like, instead of the first dance, they do like hip throws and like guard pulls and shit. And I'm like, Sherb doesn't do jiu-jitsu, but she's very supportive of it. She's like jiu-jitsu adjacent. And I'm like, hey, listen,
I like that.
You got to give me this little area because you see, honey, I'm going to have a lot of savages at this party. And I feel like if I don't give them an area like a pig pen to sort of quarter off
that would be cool. You could set up like a little groomsman area, which would be pretty cool.
Groomsman area. right before I walk to the down the aisle, I'll just be doing I'll be warming up like I'm fighting. There'll be a mat in the groomsman room.
That would be good.
I'll be doing collar chokes with the tuxedo.
So are we going with ruffles for the tuxedos or no ruffles?
I'm gonna go we're going like ranked cummerbunds, those belt things that go along your belly.
I like that. I know what a cummerbund is. Son of
Hell yeah. I'm talking to the viewers because a lot of people are unaware of how great these things are.
That's a good point.
And I feel like that's as much personal BS that Kit will tolerate on this episode, because he's actually everyone's been watching them and they're very supportive of everything. Dude, I still can't believe we're gonna hit 50. That's amazing. That is crazy.
That's crazy. 50 shows is a lot of shows. We've been going for has it been a year yet?
It's going to be a year in October or November, I think.
Yeah.
So
we started right about the end of the year.
We've been cranking them out really tight.
Kit made the introduction. It's funny. Has he ever? He said, "I got a brief, like 1 sentence, congratulations or 1 sentence word of approval from him." And it was like the most powerful moment of approval I think I've ever had, because Kit just doesn't. He's very vanilla, very man behind the scenes. He doesn't really.
He is a man of few words.
Few words.
When he tells you good job, it's it
carries a lot of power to it.
Yeah, no, because he's not one to screw around on that. He's very. If he tells you good, it means that what you're doing is solid. Yes. But I've been there. It's like you gotta read it right, So Avery's much more all caps, super, super good. And
I don't think there's too many people in the world of jiu-jitsu that more promoters and jiu-jitsu practitioners have a serious man crush on than Avery. I mean, every promoter I see is tagging her in all their posts. She's getting all
it's not even that. It's just there's so few just genuinely likable people above across the spectrum. I'm not gonna just make this a Jiu-Jitsu Times pat on the back. We got news to talk about, but I think a moment to sort of think about, hitting 50. I feel like we deserve that.
Oh, for sure.
If nothing else, we've been grinding this stuff. And also I wanted to take a moment to thank everybody out there who's been subscribing to the channel. We just hit 10,000 subscribers, which is a really great milestone to sort of pause at and think about. Obviously we want to blow way past that, but hitting that's a big thing. A lot of people never get there.
Particularly in a community that's nuanced or niche as the jiu-jitsu community is. It's not like we're promoting to a couple 100,000, a couple million people, a couple, 10, 20 million people, where we've got maybe 100,000. I don't even know what the numbers are. I'm guessing 100,000.
I think there's million. And jiu-jitsu, I'd say there's
I guess we are dealing with worldwide too. I mean, sport keeps growing I'm trying to do the numbers.
Yeah, and listen, I know we're trying to branch out and we're doing a lot of stuff on the channel, and we're only going to add more things as time goes on. But to those of you that are here and are taking the time to listen to us, the Kevins, talk about news, break down stuff, and interview guests, I think we would both like to just say thank you. It means a lot that anyone gives a crap about anything we have to say. And if the fact that thanks to you guys, we have a platform by which we can talk to a ton of really amazing people.
Exactly.
I'm going to listen. I listen to that Roxanne Modafari interview maybe once a week, just because I'm she's one of my favorite fighters of all time.
We should try to get her back on again for a return. She got anything coming up or anything? She seemed like she was fun. She thinks like she'd be all about it.
Roxy is the most fun, and I'm definitely going to try and get her on the show again, because it is a miracle we got her on once. So,
exactly.
Get lightning to strike twice. But
we got to think about that 50th show. We'll talk about that off.
We'll talk about that off air. But it crept up on us, right? It was just going to come and pass without me saying anything.
It is. Yeah.
Before that, I just wanted to say, thank you guys. Here's to 2 billion more episodes, 3 seasons and a movie.
3 seasons and a movie.
3 seasons and a movie, baby. Kevin Gallagher will be played by Hugh Jackman.
I like that. I like that.
Who's going to be me? I feel like Elijah Wood would probably play me well.
Oh no,
I'm not a very tall guy.
I'll give you a Gosling. I'll give you a Gosling.
Well, shit, man, that makes me feel good.
Yeah, I'll give you a Gosling.
I'm not that tall.
I think we could work that in there.
Are you sad, lonely, scared? Do your friends point and laugh at how bad your outside heel hooks are? Have you given up hope? Well, chin up, comrade! BJJ black belt and purveyor of fine coffee, Josh STARLORD LeDuc is here to change your life. Buy his new DVD, Quantum Braking Mechanics, with the link in the description to gain all the secrets of foot mangling and knee wrecking to destroy all who stand in your way. Now, Josh doesn't know we're sharing this, so act fast before he finds out and unmakes us with the power of his mind. Shit, that's him. Oh, he's pissed. Anyway, I gotta go, but click the link and always heel hook responsibly. Hell yeah. I feel like, yeah. We'll make it happen.
You're better than Elijah Wood. Maybe a Shia LaBeouf.
Hey. Let's pause for a second. Elijah Wood saved Middle Earth. All right, and that was a rough gig. He carried that ring for a long time. Yeah, man.
Even Gus told him nobody else could do it. So,
yeah. All right. Well, that's enough sentimentality, But it's important to really talk to you guys directly every now and again. But we do have some huge news in the MMA and Jiu-Jitsu world that I think it would be prudent of us to go over, and that is our boy, one of the goats, the greatest of all time, Buchecha. Has decided to fully commit himself to MMA. And not only that, he has announced he is signed with one championship, the biggest MMA promotion in Asia, based out of Singapore, famously signed Gary Tonin and a lot of huge UFC exports like Demetrius Johnson, Eddie Alvarez, Sage Northcutt, just
Tom
to name
Black.
a few. Yeah, Tom DeBlas also announced that he's fighting under them. I don't know if there's been any movement with his fight, but he did announce it. And it seems like the Renzo Gracie relationship. Renzo Gracie famously had his most recent fight with one. What do you think? What were you thinking when you heard about this little tidbit of news?
I mean, it just follows along with the progression of jiu-jitsu athletes in general. Is this as much as we'd like to believe that professional jiu-jitsu is a marketplace that they can really make a living at, they can, and some of the very few can, but the real money is in transferring over to MMA. I mean, just like Jacare. Jacare was, arguably, and again, he comes from a different era, but Jacare was at the time probably one of the biggest stars of jiu-jitsu in the world. He couldn't make a living doing it, so he started doing MMA. It just seems like a lot of these guys are making that progression on. And Buchecha, shit, man, Buchecha's the man. He's probably, I mean, he has a game that works towards the MMA world better than some others do. He kind of has a Lovato type game where his pressure, I mean, he's a good wrestler. He's a pressure guy. He's going to be able to take people down to the ground, particularly big guys, which is difficult at the heavyweight level. And then once he gets on top, if Buchecha gets you on the ground and your jiu-jitsu isn't world class, you're in trouble.
I was thinking this is probably the most interesting jiu-jitsu to MMA crossover that we've yet seen, just because there are factors that open up at heavyweight that don't exist in some of the lower weight classes that we've seen a lot of the big names migrate into. And that's the primary one being like knockout power.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like each hit is hitting so hard and so
every
much.
Every one of these guys, when you're that size, even if you're marginal at striking, has the capacity to be a knockout puncher.
And the puncher's chance is already a thing at all levels. Exactly. Anyone at any weight can throw a punch and just hit it just right, and then you're down. And I feel like I'm interested to know I think he's training under Evolve MMA. Let me see. Yeah, Evolve MMA in Singapore is where he's going to be doing his camp. I don't know where he's based elsewhere, or like who else he's working with in terms of getting himself ready. But I think it's interesting that I think we could go back to one of the first episodes we ever did where we went over like the BMF title and that whole night of cards. And that's that jiu-jitsu doesn't always work.
Right.
And it was Derek Lewis and a Sambo practitioner, like a champion, a former champion in Sambo, I believe,
right,
where they were fighting and he repeatedly took him down, established solid top game, like great positions, locked up like Americanas, Kimuras. Yeah. And there was just moments where little holes opened up. And Derek Lewis, being such a physical guy with such mass and strength, was able to just stand up and ended up winning the fight. Now, I think comparing Buchecha to a lesser, Sambo guy is definitely not fair. But I thought I would want to ask you as an experienced black belt, what kind of strength do you think is going to open up at heavyweight for Buchecha?
I mean, obviously the thing, and again, this is the hardest part. And I think that finding heavyweights that can successfully take another heavyweight down are hard to come by. So in other words, if you find a heavyweight, that's why I believe that as you go up a little bit higher, I even think that as you go up higher, wrestling is so much more important. And maybe I'm over exaggerating. Just having any particular skill set when you weigh 230 pounds, which is world class, is a commodity. It's very rare. That's why they always say that in the UFC, the hardest fighters to find, they're the ones they're always looking for, are heavyweights and the super small guys, because there's just not a lot of them. So if you're a heavyweight, it's one of your quickest ways to get to the UFC or get to the next level. But I believe that being able to just take down a skilled heavyweight fighter that's skilled enough to fight on a one championship or a UFC championship is a very legitimate skill. And there's no doubt in my mind that Buchecha doesn't have the takedown ability to take down any heavyweight in the world. I don't think there's anyone out there that can handle him, his aggression, his speed and power and ability to take someone down. The question is, can he do that without getting punched in the face and get rocked? I think he's going to be able to do that. I think obviously one fighting has a history of, I don't want to say padding records for guys, but making sure that guys in the beginning stages get the nods to help them get their record going. Because, one is bringing Buchecha on for a reason. It's not like they just brought him on because, hey, it's Buchecha, let's throw him to the wolves. They want to start making their brand after him. And they're doing a pretty good job of that. So, in the beginning stages, I imagine Buchecha is going to get some, I don't want to say soup cans, but maybe less than stellar opponents to go out there and prove to the world how great he is. And then as that goes up, he'll get better opponents. But one's amazing. Like, they're doing a great job. They really are. They have a great understanding of how to capitalize on the market that sometimes loses faith in the UFC. And I'm talking about the old seasoned, hardcore fight fans that are actually intelligent fight fans that train, that see a lot of the shenanigans in the UFC and a lot of the nonsense in the UFC and sometimes get turned off by that. So what do? They go after these big names, particularly from the grappling world, because hardcore fans that train normally grapple. So they're fans of Buchecha, they're fans of Dylan Dennis, they're fans of Gary Tonin, and eventually Gordon Ryan, I believe. So now they're bringing those people to view in to one championships, and they're doing a good job of that.
It does feel like Bellator and ONE and some of the other promotions out there have been more willing to capitalize on specifically the jiu-jitsu and submission grappling scene for talent. I feel like the last super major grappling focused import to the UFC, like that was just widely known before he entered the UFC, was like Kron. And I don't think I think he fought Alex Caceres his first fight, and I know he won. And they weren't then his next fight after that was Cub Swanson. So it's not like they're interested in just padding out his resume so that they're building a champion. The UFC doesn't really need to do that in the same way that other promotions might feel the need to.
What happened with Kron, by the way? He quit fighting or something? I haven't seen
he lost to Cub. And then I'm just not aware of what he's like. I haven't really been following.
There was nothing after that. It's just weird to see him fall off the map like that. I know he wasn't happy about the loss to Cub, but it was watching his fight with Cub was so very uninspiring. I was at that fight. It was in Tampa. Matt Favola fought on that card, and we had a whole crew there. I watched it live, and it was so uninspiring to watch. It was so just ridiculously, pulling guard, and then when he pulled guard, not really doing a whole lot, and he thought he won, and everyone in the world was like, "No, dude, you didn't win. It was cute, but you didn't win."
I did remember definitely feeling that was the right decision. That Cub was more active. In my memory, it's shocking that outside of pulling guard, my memory of the match is pretty hazy.
Kron tried to stand with Cub Swanson and just got mutilated.
Well, that's not gonna work.
it wasn't even cute. Like, he got picked apart, and then he didn't even try to wrestle with him. It was just a weird display. But back to one, I think you talked about how Bellator and some of the other organizations try to capitalize on those grapplers. I think that the thing that separates one championship from the rest of them is that their mission statement is, we're a no frills, no bullshit fighting organization. We want talent, and we want the talent to be on display as opposed to the personalities of the fighters. No gimmicks, no bullshit. And I think that a lot of times Bellator and the UFC's gotten better about it, but Bellator obviously is all about putting on a show, and they're almost over the top.
Look at every fight Dylan Dennis has had so far. It's been against, and I am not trying to knock Dylan Dennis right now. I think he is a phenomenally talented athlete. He's a very impressive grappler. You don't get a black belt from Marcelo Garcia, and you're not good.
Oh no,
he's consistently fighting the best of the best. And some of the things he does are definitely cringy. I think he's trying to ape the Conor gimmick, and it comes off terribly like it usually does. But the guy's got talent, and he was able to pull guard successfully into a toe hold in his first match. I think he's got solid skills. He looked not really good standing up, but I think it's not his fault necessarily. It's not. I don't think it's all his fault who he's fighting. But when you compare it to the people that, Gary was facing, I don't really remember much about his first fight other than he looked fairly decent on his feet. He wasn't trying to just bring the game to the ground the entire time. I do remember feeling that there was a different level of the competition across the board at one.
Yeah. I think that definitely, it's not necessarily about who has the most talent. I think it's more about the presentation of the game and the presentation of the fights and what the mission statement of each organization is and where they lie and how they try to present themselves to the fans. And, I don't think it's unquestionable that the talent pool of one in Bellator is not as high as the UFC, and anyone that wants to change that point of view is just lying to themselves. Like Buchecha, I'm sure one paid him tons and tons of money to go over there and fight, and he's doing it for the money, but he's just not going to be going against the same amount of talent, the same level of talent that the UFC. The UFC is still going to be on the top dog, and even the world champion of one wants to fight the UFC because he knows he's not really the champ unless he wins the championship in the UFC.
I mean, look at what happened to Ben Askren in his first match. He went from dominating fairly hand over fist in his entire career, and you could say that that's due to wear and tear and a lot of chronic injuries. But his first match against real competition, Robbie Lawler. Yeah. There was a lot of people that thought that should have been stopped in 3.2 seconds when Robbie dropped him on his head. Yeah, and he showed so much heart in staying in that. That it was incredible that the fact that he was able to withstand that onslaught. And then attempt the choke the way he did. And I'm not going to get into if he tapped or not. I'm not a professional in that way. But You definitely got the sense that, okay, this is not what we thought it was going to be. We gave away Demetrius Johnson and a bunch of other talent.
And
this guy.
Yeah, and a player to be named later. But I mean, to be honest with you, I really believe that it was still a good trade. I mean, if you really want to talk about the numbers and the revenue that was generated out of it, no one really gave, as much as Demetrius Johnson was dominating force in the UFC at the time, no one really gave a shit about Demetrius Johnson. It's a sad thing, and maybe it's a reflection of us as a society, but like Demetrius Johnson just was not bringing in the top dollar. Henry Cejudo made himself into this thing that he is, so that maybe now he's able to make that division more exciting, but he just didn't do it. So when you talk about Ben Askren coming over, like there was buzz. You know, even the 2 fights that Ben Askren had were probably more profitable than 4 fights of Demetrius Johnson's for the organization, and they built more hype.
Real quick, you met Cejudo, right?
Yeah,
you met him once.
What
was he like?
That story. I didn't tell you that story. I told that I did an interview with Mark Charles. Sorry, I'm getting text. I'm being rude. I did an interview with Mark Charles. Remember, we had Mark Charles, friend of the show. He has his radio station and radio animal, a UFC animal, MMA animal, or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had me on as a guest, and I told the story about meeting Cejudo, and it's a pretty funny story, man. So like, I was on vacation in Sarasota, and I was just kind of minding my own business. I go down there every year to Siesta Key, St. Armand Circle, nice little area down there, and hang out for the week at a timeshare my parents have had for shit as long as I can remember. I think when Gordon Ryan was actually in Florida, I think he went to the same exact beach that I go hang out at. I just wasn't there at the same time. I missed it by about a week. Anyway, so I was on my vacation, and I was with my girl at the time, and we were up walking around St. Armand Circle getting some pizza, and there's like little shops and stuff. It's like kind of a high-end area, and we went to go get ice cream. And as I'm walking up to get ice cream, you know, I'm minding my own business. I look over in a little bench, and I'm looking at myself, and I think to myself, holy shit, like that's Henry Cejudo. And like, you know, it wasn't like there was a big crowd around him. It wasn't like he was getting all blah, blah, blah. But I'm walking around and thinking to myself, oh shit, man, that's Henry Cejudo. And I'm like, hey, dude, awesome. Hey, champ, man, I'm a huge fan of yours. Super nice to meet you. Like, real cool. I was like, hey, you know, when you get a minute, I would love to take a picture with you if you don't mind. And he was like, you know, pretty cool, but also a little bit, you know, weirded out. And I was like, you know, whatever, dude. I'm not trying to fucking blow your scene up here, man. You know what I mean? It wasn't like there was a crowd of people like hanging around like that. Let's be honest, Henry. Like, you're a big deal, but you ain't that big of a deal, brother. You know what I mean? Like,
whoa.
I mean,
hey.
I mean, no, it's cool. I get it. You know, it wasn't like it's freaking I don't know, like Hugh Jackman or fucking somebody walking around or some big movie star or whatever. Or freaking anyway, Tom Brady. But anyway, it was cool. I'm saying this with a point because it was kind of an odd meeting. So he got, and I'm also nuts, so it's probably more just me being crazy. But so we get up, we take the picture, and after he gets up, he takes a picture with me, and afterwards, I'm kind of like, hey, you know, man, I'm a black, you know, as we're taking a picture, I told him, you know, I'm a black belt. I train Jiu-Jitsu. You know, we've got a couple of UFC fighters that train with us, and you know, I coach them, whatever. Just not necessarily trying to fucking brag.
You were essentially going like, hey, dude, I can hang.
No,
like,
not even so much I can hang.
Guy.
The point I'm trying to make is I've met plenty of UFC fighters. You know, I've met plenty of guys that are big UFC guys. You know what I'm talking about? And like, I know what it's like to be someone that's like, oh, hey, you're the best. And just to say, hey, and normally when I say those things to one of them, they are cool enough to at least accept the fact that I'm not some super fan, that I am at least, you know, talking to them from a place of recognition, and I get somewhat of a respectful nod in that regard. And again, like, I'm not trying to fucking hold this guy's hand and hang out with him. Like, I just want to take a picture and just talk a little bit for a second while I'm waiting in line to go get my ice cream. So his little buddy he's sitting with starts chirping. It's the guy that owns the gym. And like that owns the gym he trains at, and I forget his name, but he's actually kind of a big deal. But he's just some little fat dude. So he looks over at me and he's like, "Oh, so are you an Olympic champion? Are you this and that?" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm not. Like, I'm not even trying to say that. Like, I've given the guy tons of respect and admiration." It was just a whole weird scenario because like me and Cejudo had our thing. And I was kind of weirded out by him being a dick, but whatever. Like I said, I'm kind of crazy. Maybe I overreacted, but it seemed like it was a little bit off. So I let it go. And then as I'm letting it go, like his buddy sitting on the bench starts chiming in. I'm thinking to myself, all right, here's the deal, man. Like, I will give the Olympic gold medalist his due and take a fucking down shot from him. But I sure as shit ain't taking it from like his little jock sniffer boyfriend that's sitting on the corner that's hanging out with him. So like, again, though, I remained cool. I kind of let it go. And I kind of looked at him and said, yeah, you know, man, like, it's cool. Don't worry about it, buddy. Like, I'm sorry, Henry, for bothering you. It's all right. We can move on another day. It was a weird thing. And then he hit on my girlfriend. It was just even better. Like, we're waiting in line, and my girl has this, like, ridiculously, like, dyed hair. Like, she likes to dye her hair. But it's just funny. It looks obviously not real. Like, it was, like, neon red, right? So I'm standing in line, and as I've forgotten about everything, like, about 3-4 minutes later, Henry Cejudo looks over at my girl and says, hey, your hair is super pretty. Is that your natural color? And of course she goes, absolutely. And I'm like, bitch, there's no way in hell that's your color. Anyway, whatever. It was just an odd night. And I know that story was supposed to be funnier than what it came out. But that was the time that
that actually, that speaks to, that speaks to a lot, just because when you think about who Henry is and what he's done,
right,
on paper, it's very impressive. But what does it mean to win that much that young? It means you don't develop the same way that everyone else does. You know, like, he's got different priorities. He does not give a shit about 80% of the stuff that I give a shit about. And the 20% that we both give a shit about is like food, water, nutrients, and like the stuff that our body needs to continue to survive on this planet.
Right.
You know, he is. And like, when he retired as potentially one of the most successful combat sports athletes.
I think he is. I think he's top 5 easily.
Yeah,
greatest combat athletes of all time. Gold medal.
You don't win a gold medal. You don't win a gold medal. You do not win 2 divisions at simultaneously. Even if it, like, the way he did it was no, he didn't even really. He defended both. I think he did it the exact way you should do it. The way that Conor didn't do it.
I heard some chatter that he was, he beat fucking, what's his name?
Demetrius?
No, Demetrius Johnson. No, the other guy, Diaz. Not Diaz. The commentator.
Wait. Oh,
I can't think of his name. It's going to be crazy.
No.
Dominic Cruz.
Dominic Cruz. Yeah, I was about to get there.
Right. So, I mean, God, you beat literally probably 3 of the top 10 greatest fighters of all time. I mean, to me, top 25 at least. You know, you put Dominic Cruz on a top 10 list easy. You know what I mean? You put Demetrius Johnson on a top 10 list all time, pound for pound. You know, he's beaten both. You know, so like, that's something to be said. But I also heard some chatter that he's talking about maybe going back for another run at the gold medal in the Olympics. He's still young. I don't think he's 30 yet. I think he's like 27, 28. He can still get it done.
But okay, so before I wanted to move on to the second story I wanted to talk about, but real quick, just because we talked about money behind Buchecha leaving jiu-jitsu, going into MMA, the money there is a lot more solid, especially on whatever contract he probably signed. What as someone that's on the inside, what can those tip of the spear dudes, like the Galvaos, the Ryans, the Buchechas, the Peñas, the guys at the absolute pinnacle of jiu-jitsu, what do you think they're pulling just from competition?
You know, man, to say I'm on the inside of that discussion is a bit of an overshot. I mean, I have a brief understanding of what, you know, they can make and what their possibilities of making money are. But it just seems odd to me for a few reasons. Like, it seems odd to me. And again, Galvao probably has enough money. He just doesn't give a shit. He's made tons of money. You know, I think what happens when you start talking about guys like Buchecha, you start talking about guys like Felipe Pena that are more old school grappling guys, guys that have been grappling on the circuit for a long time, traditional grapplers. I think you start talking about a lot of like the guys from the United Arab Emirates and Arabs and overseas and Middle Easterners that just pay these guys obscene amounts of money to come do seminars or to come teach at their academies or to go do, you know, different events overseas. Because I imagine that, you know, I don't know the numbers, but I'm imagining, you know, Wagner, I talked to Wagner quite a bit about when we've had him on a bunch of times on the show. And, you know, Wagner's not necessarily the tip of the spear, but he's pretty close, pretty high up there. You know, and he's saying he's making a pretty good living just doing jiu-jitsu matches. Like he's doing all right just doing jiu-jitsu matches. So if that's the case, like I don't understand why. That's not really answering your question. I'm guessing maybe low 5 digits, 10 grand for a headline. I imagine maybe Cyborg made 10, 15 grand for his fight this weekend. You know what I mean? Like the big headliners were making maybe 20 to 10 grand. I think Gordon's probably getting 15, 20 grand. But again, I shouldn't speculate on that because I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to get blown out, not in case any fuckers are watching this, but I don't want to get blown out of the water with that.
Well, then real quick, how does that compare to like base MMA pay?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, so again, we're talking about two different scenarios here. We're not talking. So a guy like Buchecha, they're going to throw the world at him because not only is he has a name, he has a following. He's going to bring clout and respectability to their business. And we're talking about one championship who has, they have bottomless pockets. They have tons and tons of money to spend on fighters. So, I mean, I'm guessing, and I'm imagining that they probably gave him a couple $100,000. You know what I mean? For a exclusive 10 fight deal or 5-6 fight deal. I don't know how much they get him dug in. I don't think I would let any fighter go longer than 5 fights, but if you're going to guarantee them $200,000, $250,000 over the course of a 10 fight spring, that's not bad. That's pretty good money. You're guaranteed 10 fights for $250,000 over a 2-year period. That's pretty good. That got pretty goddamn good money. And it might even be more money and less fights. I'm speculating on that. So again, if you're just someone that doesn't necessarily have a name, like I don't think that Felipe Pena would necessarily be able to pull that much. And I don't think Galvao has any concerns, or he already tried MMA. He didn't do too hot with it. But, it makes me wonder why guys like Felipe Pena and Galvao aren't on these one championships they're not one championships, these, third course grapplings and who's number one type events more, because they could probably make, 20 grand is 20 grand, bro, for a weekend.
I mean, it's very interesting. It's always interesting when we see different exports from different sports. There's still people that are really angling for like Jordan Burroughs, the Olympic medalist, wrestling phenom, to go take a crack at the UFC, see how many people we can blast double into the stratosphere. And I'm always that guy. Look we got Cejudo as a cross sport transplant into MMA.
I think, one of the reasons Cejudo backed out was because he wasn't making enough money, though. I mean, he actually said it. Hey, all these fighters are saying that, but Cejudo was like, man, it's just not worth it anymore. I don't need this anymore. I've already accomplished everything I need to accomplish. I don't need to fight anymore. I don't need to get my brains beat in. And same thing with Askren. Askren could have fought 2-3 more times. He's like, screw it. Like, I can make a living doing other things. I don't need to be a fighter to make a living. You know what I mean? I did it to try to make it to the top, and now I don't want to have to sit back and have to climb that ladder again and go through all these wars anymore. And Cejudo's like, hey, dude, I'm on top of the world. I don't care. I've already accomplished everything I need to accomplish to say that I'm one of the greatest combat athletes of all time. Why do I need to keep getting my brains beaten for? But so the point is this, is like, if you're just some up and comer, like it's, go out there and get your name in the ring and go out there and make that money in MMA. But if you're not, man, I don't know. I forgot what I was talking about.
No, but I think it's risk versus reward.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of these athletes from other sports that are, if you're already involved in a sport like jiu-jitsu, even though the margins are so razor thin, you could make a name for yourself and then go into like running a school. Right. There's different avenues for you. You might be comfortable with that level of risk versus reward, because there is risk. There's a ton of risk of bodily harm in jiu-jitsu. You could land wrong. You could hold on. You could hold out for a heel hook longer than you should. Any joint lock longer than you should. Break limbs, like knock yourself unconscious, or like be choked unconscious. There are people that might not be comfortable going past that, and I think that's totally fine. Just because they might look at this as an acceptable parameter of risk to the body compared to the reward that you get. And until pay scales change, we're not really going to see anything else. I think there's a bigger potential for pay change in MMA just because the interest is a lot bigger than in a sport like jiu-jitsu currently. But we don't know. We're always seeing changes from promoters and people trying to bring the sport forward. So
I just feel that I just feel that it's professional jiu-jitsu is just, I just don't know, man. I think we've gotten to the point, and I go back to what Avery kind of said when I talk about, because I always thought about we have to find a version of jiu-jitsu that can break through the mainstream. I just don't see it happening anymore. And the unfortunate side effect is I just, as much as I love these who's number ones and all these things like that, unless they can figure out a way to make it cost effective, like they're just not going to be able to continue to do that. And the only way to make it cost effective is to have a breakthrough audience where you're talking to more. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know how much people are making off flow grappling. Yeah.
Well, I think that a lot of things are necessary. Or a lot of things are in need of potentially reevaluating and changing, across both sports. And one that we've discussed very frequently in jiu-jitsu terms is, officiating, judging, rule sets. You've acted as a ref many, many times. You're very experienced with that rule set. There was recently a very unfortunate event at UFC Fight Night in Abu Dhabi, where there was a controversial stoppage on Herb Dean's part. It led to a verbal altercation with Dan Hardy at ringside. I'm just going to bring up the story. And so basically there was a shot, fighter gets rocked. According to Hardy, the fight was stopped late. How much of this story are you familiar with?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this story. To be honest with you, I forgot to go back and watch the clip because I wasn't watching the fights last weekend as much as I really wanted to go back and watch it again just so I could see it. And I'm mad that I didn't now because I'd like to talk about it. But from what I heard, there was a verbal altercation after the fight as Herb Dean was leaving the cage to go backstage between Dan Hardy, who is a commentator. Everyone knows Dan Hardy. He was commentating the fights between Herb Dean and Dan Hardy because of a late stoppage.
Well, actually, it had started happening during the fight, just because the first person, according to Herb Dean's video response to this controversy, the first voice he really heard saying "stop the fight" was Hardy's, and he initially thought because of the lack of sound pollution, because of the non-crowd at the event. He thought it might be the corner. And so, but he acted completely on what was in front of him at the time. I think we can play it real quick here.
Yeah. If we don't get it taken down.
Yeah, but see there's a pause and there's a clear delay.
Yeah, no, I mean, so just watching that now, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, like, I think Dan Hardy is overreacting on that, and I love Dan Hardy. But when I read a pretty interesting exchange about that article about talking about Dan Hardy. They kind of compared Dan Hardy to Teddy Atlas, who was also a very passionate boxing commentator. Fucking fight guys, they get hit in the head a lot. They get a little crazy. You know what I mean? So, in an impassioned state, he chastised Herb Dean because he truly believed that the fight should have been stopped after the first knockdown. Watching that again, I kind of side with Herb Dean. The guy gets knocked down. He was probably still coherent. I mean, Herb Dean's got a better view than anybody. He's standing right over him, looking at him. Herb hadn't stopped the fight yet. He's waiting for the other fighter to jump on top to continue. It wasn't like he got knocked out and just went limp. When you get knocked out, you get hit in the chin, and you've seen it. Their legs buckle under the guys blow their knees out. The whole body just goes limp. And in particular, one of the ones you see is the head hits the ground, and you get hit, and as you go limp, you come down, your head hits the ground again as you go back. That's not what happened. The guy got hit, and he kind of went up and covered his head and brought his knee up to protect himself. Whereupon Herb was like, "Hey, I didn't stop this fight, dude. Come in and finish this fight." Because if this dude on the bottom now decides to stand back up again, no one says anything about it. And Herb saw that opportunity. And again, it wasn't like he let the guy come on top and land 4 or 5 unanswered blows. I've seen way worse stoppages, like way worse stoppages. A couple weeks before that, I can't remember the fighters, but God, I thought it was one of the worst stoppages, light stoppages I've ever seen. This guy took about, it had to have been 20 unanswered blows. It was horrible.
Well, I mean, a lot of people are immediately comparing this to what happened to, oh my gosh, crap. Keep talking. I gotta.
But the idea is this, like, you know, Herb Dean, whatever you're gonna say.
Jose Aldo, his most recent fight, where he got absolutely tenderized before the ref decided to call it.
That you talk about Jose Aldo, that might have been the fight. That was the fight I was talking about. They should have stopped that fight way sooner. Jose Aldo just got destroyed.
Yeah,
and it's sad because it's Jose Aldo, so you want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's this great champion. But I mean, like, that's exactly the fight I was talking about. Jose was you. There's a certain point when you have to do the guy a favor. Because Jose Aldo's way too proud to quit, right? But as a referee, you have to be. But he also was like, please stop this. You could just see everything in his body language was just screaming, please do your job and stop this fight so I don't have to show weakness. I don't have to relent my championship heart and show weakness.
Now,
but this fight was nowhere near the same.
Now, in Hardy's, like, not defense, but sort of explaining some other dimension to the incident in question, the fighter Herbert was actually his teammate, so that there was a lot of personal feelings involved with that.
But still, though, I mean, two things, and I'll just be perfectly blunt with you in this. Like, you're a commentator, your job isn't to get involved. Even if one of your fighters is fighting, you save that shit for after. You take a deep breath, you be a professional, and that's number one. You know what I'm talking? You as someone that's been involved with professional broadcasting before, like yourself, like, you have to understand that you just can't let your emotions get the better of you. And I believe that's exactly the conversation that Dana White had with him. And I saw a tweet that Dana White released about the occasion. I'm imagining it had something that said about that. So, like, you got to let that slide. You can't get involved. The guy didn't get hurt. Everything's cool. But also, man, like, dude, Herb Dean is arguably the greatest referee of all time. You know what I mean? And particularly fighting, training, reffing matches right now. Like,
next to like Big John McCarthy, who was instrumental in creating the rules for MMA.
Yeah. I mean, Herb Dean is the gold standard. He's the one that everyone, and does he make bad calls? Of course he does. Does he make questionable calls? Of course he does. But it's not easy. And he's the first one to say that. He had a great interview on Joe Rogan where he talked about that after the Ben Askren fight with Robbie Lawler with the bad call. And he's like, look, man, like, people come up to me all the time and they tell me I made bad calls. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, dude. I do. There's nothing I can do about it. But that's part of the game. He doesn't even let it bother him. He says it doesn't even like make an imprint on his mind because, first and foremost, it's your job to protect the fighter, but it's also your job to make sure the fighter is still in it.
I think a big thing with Hardy it seemed he was attacking this issue from the point of view of, I'm a fighter. Like, I know I've been in that ring. And I think he must have forgotten or been unaware of the fact that Herb Dean himself was an MMA fighter for a long time. Like,
even more than that. That's a stupid.
I know. I
guarantee you, Herb Dean has watched more fights up close than Darren Hardy has from day one. So, like, we can't make that a fun conversation.
There is always that itch, though, of, like, the ref is the third man in the ring, but he is not taking punishment, and so Hardy is someone that's taken a lot of punishment over his career and had a lot of success. He's widely regarded as an expert in the field, and everyone respects his opinion on stuff like this. I can't speak for him at all. I'm actually gonna try and reach out to him to see if we can get him on the show, because I think it's a big issue that we need to talk about. That he feels.
That could be number 50.
Hey, if we can rush it, if we can rush that job, I think he might feel a kinship with the people in the cage. As he's commentating, he's also been a fighter. And I feel like that. Aside from the fact that this is also his teammate we're talking about, that might have affected his level of passion and the way he went about his discourse with Hardy, you know, and I'm not going to show the video just because everyone's seen it, but like,
yeah, he's up in his face. Yeah,
I think it's important to realize that I think it's important to state that I do not believe Hardy's acting as I want to make this about me. I don't think he's trying to just gain attention for himself in any way. I think he's coming at this as a guy who's concerned. You know, this isn't like Conor McGregor when his buddy wins. He's so happy he jumps in the cage and ends up fighting the ref. You know, it's not like some guy's trying to puff his chest out.
No, it's not, but it's still close. It's incredible.
It's close.
It's unprofessional to chastise someone who's
it was a very unprofessional.
It wasn't right to do that.
It was a very unprofessional thing, but I can get if someone I cared about, I saw him got dropped. Yeah. And I know him, I've trained with him, and I know what it's like when he's dropped, and I know he's dropped and the fight is still going on. I get that my brain would be overwired by my heart.
Well, yeah, I think watching that, particularly just seeing the clip of it now, I'm glad I didn't spend time to go back and watch it again because I would have been pissed because like, what, we bitching about this? I think if watching that, if Dan Hardy doesn't make the reaction or doesn't have the reaction that he has, it's a complete non-issue. No one talks about it because it wasn't even that bad. Watching it now, I was like, wow, this is what everybody's pissed off about. It was nothing. You knocked a guy out. The guy looked up, put his leg up. He ate 2 punches more, and then Herb was right on top of it to stop the action. It wasn't like he let him get pummeled. It was pretty weird.
As someone that hasn't gotten like punched in the face a ton, every time I have, it's reminded me that this is why I do jiu-jitsu in the gi and I don't want to get punched. It's not for me, homie. It's not for big like it's just not for me. I feel like I am unable, I feel unequipped to really super comment on it. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it as a guy who's done jiu-jitsu, but also had a big boxing background. You're familiar with what that kind of damage feels like, how to react to it.
It didn't appear to me to be the type of knockout that Dan Hardy was talking about. Like the type of knockout where a person goes limp, their entire body like falters down and they go low. Like perfect example of that is watching the Dominic Cruz Cejudo fight. When Cejudo cracked Dominic Cruz and he went limp and fell on the ground. In my opinion, if it's not Dominic Cruz, they could have stopped that fight. And I think it was actually Herb Dean that was reffing that match too. So if I believe that fight could have been stopped right after that crack, but they allowed him to take a few more shots. And then of course they, freaking Dominic Cruz gets mad and says it was an early stoppage. But in reality, like when he got clipped, his whole body would limp. That's not what we see in this last fight. The guy gets clipped. He kind of falls to the ground, but he's still under control. Yeah, he's covering his face, but it wasn't like it was covering his face and saying, stop, stop, stop. I got a broken nose or broken orbital bone or whatever. So anyway.
Yeah, I think the last big controversial stoppage in that realm that reached the same level of fever pitch was probably Cejudo Dillashaw. That was a big thing that a lot of people had a lot of fierce opinions about. Dillashaw was very openly pissed, maybe even more so than Cruz is currently about his loss to Cejudo, but that was a big one. That was a huge one, and I feel like a lot of people I was watching it, and everyone I think the most people agree that it was stopped appropriately. Because he ate so many quick shots to the body, the face. He was just getting lit up, and he was saying, I was going on a single leg. And I'm like, I'm not going to, like Mr. Dillashaw, I'm not going to tell you what you were doing because you could kill me. And it's just, I have a lot to live for right now. But I think your brain thought you were going in on a single leg. I'm sure in your brain, you were winning the fight.
Everyone thinks they're fine until they show the replay. Oh, you were fine? Well, cool. Let's watch the replay. when your entire body collapsed on top of yourself and your eyeballs roll back in your head and you were pawing in the air at absolutely nothing. And tell me, what was going through your mind right then? Oh, you don't remember? Oh, that's weird.
I also kind of want to. There was this interview where he's like, I was going in on the single, and I'm like, okay, gonna fully disengage. But yeah, TJ, you were gonna get a single on Olympic gold medalist in wrestling.
That was your first mistake.
Oh, well, man, okay, yeah. So
you want to talk a little bit about Cyborg? I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about Cyborg. I might write an article about that big fucker, just because he is, man.
2020 is Cyborg's
year.
Man. He's getting wins back on.
He just gets better and better.
Nicky Rod. He's got he beat Nicky Rod,
winning everything.
He won the Third Coast Grappling Kumite. What did he just win?
Beat Lucas Barbosa.
Yeah. Right, and when we had Ryan on, he didn't have Cyborg winning that. He was like, Jimenez is going to take it, maybe Barbosa.
Man, like, Cyborg is just God. He's just the undying force of jiu-jitsu these days. Like he has been on top of the game for so long, and just continues to impress with his ability to win. And he keeps winning these matches where, like, you almost think of, oh yeah, and Cyborg's in there too. You don't even like in the Third Coast grab, Cyborg's there. And then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit. Cyborg's in the finals. Another
one was his match against Lovato Jr., where it's like, okay, this is a close one. He looked really good. I mean, you could argue that Lovato was more active on the attacks from the bottom, but he was hitting the foot sweep. He was dominant from the top. He was aggressively trying to pass the guard. He looked strong, good, like technically sound.
Yeah, and he plays that very old school Brazilian game and kind of like stays inside of his game and, stays smart and plays positional stuff. And if the submission appears, it appears, but like, he does it really well, and he keeps cranking out wins doing it. So you can say whatever you want to say about it, but it's effective for him. And man, dude, like I watched a clip with him against Nick Rodriguez, another friend of the show. That's another possible number 50 episode. Get going there, just FYI. I watched a match with him against Nick Rodriguez on a Third Coast Grappling or Kasai. I can't remember what it was, a little while ago. And like that dude, Cyborg moves. God, he moves around like he weighs like 140 pounds. Like it's amazing to watch him, the way he rolls and inverts and comes back to position. He keeps his feet to hips off of the roll throughs and comes up for double legs off of it. Like it's, as someone that knows how difficult it is to move around like that. And then when you see Cyborg in person, like he looks like he looks like the Incredible Hulk. It's amazing to watch him compete and see him be able to move around as effortlessly and as fluidly as he does, like a ballerina.
I mean, he's an I think in his most recent match, someone asked him what keeps you going, and he just responded, "Jiu-Jitsu." Yeah, like that's it. That's all I got under the tank.
He keeps winning. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing with Wagner. Like what keeps Wagner going? I keep getting paid. I keep winning. I keep showing up. I keep winning. I keep getting paid. Like that's what keeps him going. That's shit. It's easy as that. Man.
I think there's also a desire. Like there's an inclination there's so many strong, young, dominant grapplers. Like the most dominant grapplers in the world are like the number one's American, and then we got Keenan. We're filling out the top tens, and Brazil is definitely still the motherland, but you've also got new Brazilians, like an entire new generation across the globe. Even Freddie V that we had on, he's a young guy in the grand scheme of things. All these young dudes coming up, there's this desire to sort of say, okay, like you guys have had your time, you old generation, we're here now. Cyborg's not going fucking anywhere, man.
Cyborg ain't going nowhere, man.
Yeah,
and I think maybe at the heavyweights tend to age better. Like they tend to be, they're in all aspects, guys that are that 220, 230 up, like they tend to their longevity tends to last a little bit longer for some reason, just because they're so big and their games are based upon more size and less explosiveness. But goddamn, like he shot a double leg on Barbosa last night. I saw a clip of it on Instagram, and dude, it was amazing. It was like fucking like a blast double leg on an athletic kid that is a super athlete that's at 25 years old in the prime of his life, and blasted a blast double leg on this kid and almost took him down. It was pretty freaking impressive to see.
I mean,
that's Cyborg. He's 40 years old now, I think.
Hang on. Actually, I want to know
I think he's 40. I think he's got to be 40 by now. He was 38 a while ago.
39.
39, yeah.
So he's knocking on 40. He's going to be 40 in December. That's incredible, man. Like guys like him they blow my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in awe of it too, because again, as someone that's 43 years old and understands how difficult it is to get out there and try to hang with these young guys, like to see someone be able to go out there and maintain that explosive nature to the game at such an advanced age that's impressive, man, because you don't have it anymore. Like people don't realize, like you take for granted how athletic and how powerful and strong and how you can just dig deep for those powerful freaking explosions whenever you feel like having them when you're 24 and 25. Because when you're 35 and 38 and 40, 42, like you don't have those anymore. You have to be smarter. You have them, but you don't have them as much. You have to kind of like pick your shots a little bit better. But Cyborg's impressive, man. Like I give him my thumbs up. I'd love to get him on. I might try to see what I can do about getting Cyborg.
I mean, you're closer. You're closest to him, man. Like go.
That would be a great 50.
Drive down, beat the crap out of Tech, and then earn the right to ask Cyborg to come on.
My buddy from the Fighter's Choice guys, he keeps wanting me to do it, but he pissed me off. I don't know if I want to fucking go down there and kiss his ass. I wouldn't mind. I have some connections with the Fight Sports guys, Wagner, Les, but I'm banged up. Like I just can't. My knee's still jacked. My ribs jacked up. I'm not really in a big shape. I want to go down there and train with those guys, but I'm not in shape. It would be pathetic.
So I finally got around to seeing your video with Roddy, Dr. Ferguson.
Yes, they reposted that. The Jiu-Jitsu Times did.
Man, we got to get him back too. That's
we get him back on again.
Mainly just because of him, I've become infected. Like I'm damaged goods because now I'll just find myself watching judo highlight reels, and like I'm like, shit, am I gonna start doing judo now? Am I gonna get even more jacked up? Are my joints going to be even
Judo's rough on the body.
Judo's so rough on the body, but it looks so cool.
It does. If I was your age, I would consider doing judo, but I'm too old, man. I get thrown on the ground. I don't break fall my ass. There ain't no break fall no more. My body just goes, I'm not getting back up.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I might have to text him and be like, "Hey, man, take whatever spell you cast on me, undo it, man. I want to pull guard and play guard."
Well, now, Kevin, I can help you do that. But you see,
now, listen here now. Now listen here now. I walked in the gym cold one day. I walked in the gym cold. I front squatted 495.
495. Cold off the street.
There is not a man alive who would touch Daniel Cormier in his prime.
Oh, we gotta love some.
We love you.
We're due for another Roddy.
Yeah, no.
Let's get him back on again.
Yeah, but oh man. Okay, so I feel like that's a good place to call it. We talked about referees. We talked about Buchecha. We talked about Cyborg being immortal and he's going to outlive us all. And once again, we're about to be 50 episodes into this journey with you guys. Man,
it's definitely a thing. We're knocking them out.
Maybe we get Flavio back. Just be like, "Hey man, please."
He'd do it. Yeah. We'll put I'll put my feelers out there and get us a good guest for 50.
Hell yeah. Well, and again, to any listeners that if any suggestions you have, feel free to hit me up on Instagram. My DMs are open. We're always looking for any kind of feedback that you guys have. My handle's actually right here next to my name. I'll tag Kevin. I'll tag yours down below so that people can reach out to both of us if you have any questions or ideas going forward.
Want to be a guest on the show or have any guests you'd like us to
we're not opening up to that. We're not opening it up to that just because then a lot of crazy stuff happens. But we are going to try going forward to be more in communication with you guys. We're going to try and do some more like live stuff going forward, experimenting with that, because I feel like we're at the place now where we can start opening the gates to see what kind of live commentary we can get from an audience. But yeah, for for real, from the bottom of both of our hearts and the hearts of everyone, you know, that you don't see on camera working behind the scenes on the website, all our contributing writers, you know, Kit, Avery, Cam, everybody. It means the world that you guys stick around to listen to us bullshit for a little while.
It's fun for me to be able to talk about the thing I love and actually feel like people listen to me. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, especially now with the world the way it is, you know, doing this show, it's like it's definitely become a form of therapy for me. You know, like it's just you get to turn your brain off and think about this thing that you love, and maybe reach out to some people. And you know, I love the fact that we've gotten some really big names on the show, but we're also big on getting like younger talent out there, like Mona Bailey we just had on the last one, you know, Chase up and comers in the UFC like Chase Hooper and Billy Q. So we're never gonna just pigeonhole ourselves to the bigs of the big, you know, but so we're going to try and talk to everybody. And we're going to try and talk to people that aren't necessarily huge competitors. We've had fantasy authors on the show, for Christ's sake. You know, we're throwing the gambit. We've had like doctors and health wizards on the show, you know, veterans, you know,
we're giving you what you need to hear. It's not just a jiu-jitsu show, and we've got more to offer.
Ignore what's behind me. Yeah. It's not just jiu-jitsu. But yeah. So signing off right before our 50th episode. This is your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. And we'll see you at 50.
We'll see you at 50, guys. Take it easy.
See you at 50. Good night.
Boom.